Hey, Stoney here with another game of Mechabellum. I'm against Sparty this game. He is an extremely talented player. I'm going with Supply Specialist with Arc Lights and Sledgehammers, and he will be going Heavy Armor Specialist with Arc Lights and Phoenixes. Round 1, I had to make a tough decision whether to add Marksman or some sort of anti-air to deal with the Phoenixes. Marksman is not ideal because the Phoenixes will simply lock onto my Sledgehammers, and he's got 4 Phoenixes, which is almost equivalent to 4 Marksmen, where I only have 2 Marksmen. So he will be able to power down my Sledgehammers fairly quickly while they'll be busy hitting whatever chaff he's going to be throwing at me. Another option would just be adding 2 units of chaff. I think that is more durable. Unfortunately, I did go with 2 Marksmen. I was trying to bank on the fact that the Phoenixes are not going to take down my tanks and my Sledgehammers that quickly. Sparty decided to go aggro. I'm not sure if this is the best move, but let's see, because now all his chaff is just funneling into my arc lights, and they're not getting too much value. Ideally, with these chaff, you want them, to be split up so that arc lights don't get the splash damage. But it doesn't matter. He's got enough Phoenixes to power down all my units, so he takes round 1, no problem at all. Alright, round 2 unit drops. What's good for my board, what's good for his board. I think for my board, Wasp is an excellent decision. Typhoon's not bad as well. Fire Badgers is useful because he does have crawlers, and he probably will continue to go crawlers. But so far, I just needed something to answer an immediate problem, which is these Phoenixes. My opponent took the Typhoons. I think this is a good choice. He's anticipating me going Wasps. He's also looking for something a bit tankier and also to help out with the chaff. I positioned my Wasp on the far end, not expecting any sort of defense, so hoping the Wasp would just run to the tower. I added another set of fans just to provide some support. I feel like this arc light was just being powered down a little too fast, and if this arc light were to stay a bit longer, it will be able to kill these 2 entire pack of crawlers, allowing my Sledgehammers to engage with his arc light and my Marksman to engage with the Phoenixes. I put both my fans on this side so they provide a continuous wave of chaff, hopefully to tie up these Phoenixes forever. And I added another unit of Marksman. And this Marksman is going to be placed right here to the far right. One is just to shoot at the Phoenixes once the chaff clears, and the other one is just to prevent any sort of funny business happening on the flank. My opponent added a set of fans, but I don't think that is going to stop these level 2 wasps, but it will slow them down pretty significantly. Alright, so the extra chaff did the job. Unfortunately, my second wave of chaff didn't arrive, so that arc light was still dying a little too young, but it did its job. It took care of those 2 sets of crawlers, allowing the Marksman to target the Phoenixes. The Typhoon warping was a bit problematic. It is a very tanky unit. It dispatched my set of fans fairly quickly, and the Marksman was only able to bring 1 of them down. And as you can see, it will continue to get even more value out of it because it will get tower, which means it will clear out these level 2 wasps and possibly even more units after that. Alright, turn 3. Few interesting choices. Amcore is actually pretty good for the Typhoon. Missile Strike is nice because he has 2 sets of Phoenixes that I can just drop something on. Alright, so M-Core goes on to the Typhoon. He added an additional chaff. He's really trying to build out his flank here, knowing that I don't have anything right now in my arsenal to effectively deal with this. I thought about going armor on tanks, but I'm worried about the fact that he's just gonna level, and once he's leveled, tank with armor usually doesn't stop Typhoon anymore, at least not this one. I also took the amp core, even though I was talking about getting a missile. I think I was just holding on to this amp core for something in the future that I want to put onto. So this is more of a band-aid solution. I added a set of tanks here. My thought was that these Typhoons did spend quite some time to kill my units here. So if I can add some tank, one is just to provide a bit better chaff clear than these fans, but two, they'll also be serving as chaff themselves. So once the Typhoon clear out the tanks, which are quite tanky, they will have to clear out these fans as well, giving this marksman enough time to deal the damage it needs to bring these two Typhoons down. On the other side of the board, he added another pair of Typhoons. Mech Rage is going to help quite a bit, and so is this level 2 marksman, so I'm not too worried about the damage up front. Hopefully I'll be able to shoot down all of his phoenixes before he kills all my units, but it seems like we're just one shot too short. Looking at the bottom, both Typhoons survived. They're just extremely tanky units. Each Typhoon, even at level 1, 17,000 health. Now, it doesn't help that my opponent's heavy armor specialist, so regular Typhoon will have 17% less of that, but that is still at around what, 14,000, give or take? So extremely tanky units. One Typhoon is stronger than 2 sledgehammers. Alright, so let's go to round 3. Not able to bring that down that Phoenix. And that Typhoon as well. Okay. Oh, round 4. Another great item showed up for the Typhoon. Advanced Fire Control System. Triples the damage of the Typhoon. So very, very powerful. Now this Typhoon is doing 252 damage. Very scary as a level 1 unit. I took that as well. I also actually used the amp core on the tanks, and I was debating whether I should just use the item on the tanks as well. I am lacking some serious damage against these Typhoons, and as they start to outscale me, it's going to be a bit of a problem. Units on sledgehammers aren't ideal because they're also shooting at chaff units, and because they have a slower reload speed than the Typhoon, or a lower fire rate, so 3 seconds per shot versus Typhoon's 0.2 seconds per shot, the items don't always provide the most benefit, as you tend to overkill on these smaller units. In order for me to make the items work, I either need to get Typhoons of my own, maybe Mustangs, but Mustangs at this stage is a little dangerous because the Typhoon are just getting so big. Or I need to provide even better chaff clear so my tanks are primarily shooting at these larger units. My opponent continued to build on the flank. I added a shield bubble just to give me a little bit of buffer, clear out the chaff, started doing damage on these Typhoons. The amp core tank, once this gets in the range of a large unit like Typhoon, is able to bring them down fairly quickly. The level 2 Typhoon at the corner is just absolutely wrecking my army, right? Like this entire set of units is going to go down to that single Typhoon with the amp core. Fortunately, I am able to get his tower, maybe even both towers, so that just allows this marksman to continuously shoot at that level 2 Typhoon. Okay, so the tower timing did win me this round. Sparty skipped the cards. I was really looking at the assault fortresses. Right now, most of his units are on the line, so I thought this might be a good investment if I were to take it, and just to provide that additional damage. Unfortunately, I didn't take the assault fortress. I wasn't entirely convinced that the fortress, but it might have been a mistake. I did add the armor enhancement right now. However, the armor enhancement might just be a little bit too late. What I wanted to do is I wanted to start building my smaller units first. Once you start going giants, then you're open for something like a melting point, right? So I decided, let's build on the smaller units just a little bit more. They are already single tech with Mech Rage. Let's try to put armor on. So this one is doing 268 damage. Level 2 sledgehammers with armor will cut the damage by half, right? So we'll tank 128 damage per shot, so effectively by half. It will also, right, this one doing the same amount of damage. Unfortunately, these are just level 1 sledgehammers, so they won't be as tanky. So the strategy here is, let's get rid of these crawlers as quickly as we can. And with advanced fire control, we're going to do a little bit more damage, so hopefully we'll be able to power down these typhoons before they kill us. The center is doing a lot better. These sledgehammers, yes, they clear out our chaff, but they're no match for the tankiness of these level 2 sledgehammers. So we're making a huge move pushing towards this tower. And it seems like the armor paid off for this round, as this set of sledgehammers are able to bring down both set of typhoons. This tower is upgraded, but it doesn't matter, as I was able to clear up the rest of the board. Okay, let's go round 6. First, let's look at unit cards. Fortress was offered. None of the other good units seemed good enough, so I took the fortress. I want to make sure that I get shield on the fortress, allowing these typhoons to waste their shots on the shield. Typhoon is one of those low damage, high firing rate units, which means whether you're getting item, they're getting almost most of the benefit because there's no overkill. But it works the same way with other items like shields, because they, with units like fortresses where they're prone to overkill, they become exceedingly efficient when doing targeting larger units or shields, because they do full damage per shot. Whereas typhoons, they just kind of do their thing, so they're not actually best at taking down giants, let alone a level 2 fortress with 80,000 shield. My opponent did also choose the fortress route, and he put the level 2 fortress on the flank. Putting fortresses on the flank is a very deadly maneuver, because as the aggressor on the flank, you're not able to put down shield bubbles, which means your units are always susceptible to a missile. So for example, these chaff, if I want to get rid of them right away, I can just put down 2 missiles, and right away my tanks will be focusing on the sledgehammers. With fortresses on the flank and with shield, you can stop that from happening. And that becomes very annoying, because now your flank is no longer just a nuisance, it becomes a real threat, as these units will run out of the shield and start doing damage to your units. Looking at the board, I think I am still holding strong on the front line here. The Stormcrawlers are doing a good amount of damage to my chaff, but my tanks are leveled. I have more fortresses than him, and I should be able to push through the middle. My flank, though, is falling. These 2 typhoons are just absolute chats of a unit, able to deal with most of my chaff, my squad of tank here. The level 2 fortress did warping last minute, so even though his health was down pretty low, because he warped in, he did get the full strength of his shield, which is an extra 80,000. Alright, so we're going to go into round 7. I am about 1 turn away from defeating my opponent. He's only sitting at 536 health. Cards were offered. Haste module increases the attack and also the speed. Is a decent item on a fortress, because fortresses are relatively slow, and if my goal is just to rush the fortress towards the tower, that's a decent item. M-Core is also another decent item. It increases the health point as well as the damage as well. Wasp Swarm was interesting, but it's very difficult to get in. Maybe this tower is already tech to level 3, so my Wasp is going to take the entire duration of the turn to kill it. This tower, maybe, as long as I don't trigger this missile. So not so useful for this turn. Mobile Beacon, don't really need it right now, so it's either between Haste Module and M-Core. I picked the Haste Module. Added a Haste Module on my Fortress. Continue to tank my Sledgehammers. I want to stay ahead of the curve, so now at level 3, they can now tank 180 damage per shot. My opponent chose the Wasp Swarm. I do have a weakness right here. So if he does go Wasp Swarm, something is either the missile is either going to go to the crawlers or the missile is going to go to the Wasp. But whatever is left is free to go in and take my tower. So that is, he was able to correctly identify the weakness of my board and acted upon it. So this is a very efficient solution to my problem. He also added Acid Crawlers. Acid Crawlers isn't something that I usually run, but if you have Acid Crawlers on the line, especially on the line against a fortress, which means when it dies, it'll create a pool of acid around this fortress, allowing all the units shooting at this fortress to deal an additional 250% damage. And that's a very dead fortress right there. And the same goes to these crawlers up front. This is a great move because unlike him with Typhoons as chaff clear, and I have Sledgehammers. Now, while Sledgehammers can kill chaff fairly quickly, they do need time to reload. So if during the reload that these crawlers get into your face, they will create a pool of assets right in front of my fortresses, allowing his fortress to deal 2.5 times damage per shot. Just look at his fortress, right? Now, these crawlers aren't even warped in yet, right? So I think they've got one crawler left. So I don't think it's able to create any pools of acid. Maybe this one. Yeah, so that one's going to create... Oh, look at that damage. Just one hit. And it's almost dead from half health. And that's a level 2 fortress. And with that gone, I think it becomes a bit hairy because, yes, I have my super tank here with the item. But it is a level 2 fortress. And my towers here is under attack as well. My middle is doing okay, but with the tower down and with my fortress maybe stepping into the acid, they'll be bombarded with phoenixes, with stormcallers while being debuffed, so it's not a good sign. Alright, let's speed this up. Yeah, so gets both tower, steps into the acid, gets killed. Very good turn for my opponent. Okay. Round 8. Intensive training is interesting. Nano repair kit is always interesting on a fortress. For me, I think I just really wanted to triple down on the fortress here. So the strategy. So I wanted to... First, I noticed there's a chaff problem. The crawlers are just getting a little too close to my units. I noticed there's a problem on this flank here, so I upgraded the tower. I took range and degen beam. So degen beam provides a straight debuff. So the units on my opponent's team will take additional 30% damage, while my units will do 30% damage more. So that's effectively what? Not exactly on a math, but I would say what, 60% more damage, but I'm sure that's not the correct math. But the point is, degen beam is a great unit to disrupt my opponent. His Typhoons are just getting ridiculous. This set of Typhoon, they are level 3, dealing 900 damage every 0.2 seconds, which means he will cut through everything, maybe with the exception of fortress, like butter. But the problem with this fortress is that it's standing right in front of this pack of acid crawlers, which is going to explode all over him. And then these Typhoons will do close to 2,000 damage every 0.2 seconds. So that's no problem with this fortress. He added more fortress in the middle. I have 200 resources left. Took the loan. I think I'm gonna go with temp range. Okay, so I actually took a mobile beacon. I noticed that once I defended the chaff here on this side with his crawlers, there's absolutely nothing defending him against anything to this tower. It is a level 3 tower, so I didn't have a lot of hope for that. What I wanted is just for this wraith to not be stuck on this fortress or whatever unit that's being put here. My flank is falling very quickly. My steel balls, which I originally had hoped for of taking down these larger units, has failed me again as well. In the center, I am winning the fortress war, but not with the tower debuff. And now my opponent has absolutely crushed this round. Oof. 42. Can I make a comeback? First, let's look at the cards. M-Core is offered again for the 3rd time this game. Deployment Specialist is interesting. Redeployment Missile, these are not good for this round. So I'm going to take the Deployment Specialist. My biggest problem right now is a combination of these crawlers, which will explode all over my units, allowing his low damage, high rate of fire units, well in this case right now pretty high damage as well. It will allow them to even do more damage per shot. And that's very bad. Very little overkill. As a matter of fact, you know, these, especially this pack of Typhoon, they're so strong, they're actually doing overkill. Like 900 damage on these fans with 134 life. They're wasting a lot of damage. That just tells you how leveled and how strong these units are with that item. For me, I said, you know what, enough is enough. There's only a couple ways to go about this. The first way to go about this is to figure out a more definitive way to get rid of these larger units. Steel ball is the obvious choice, so instead of getting level 1 steel balls, I might opt for a couple level 2 steel balls. Maybe even a mechanical division, just to kind of waste their time shooting at them while some of my steel balls gets locked on for more than 10 seconds. Another way to do it is to counter the chaff. So there's a lot of chaff that's going around. What if I have chaff of my own? What if I have replicate and impact drills to create more units? His chaff clear at the front isn't particularly impressive. Chaff clear on the side is absolutely bonkers. So the goal is maybe we'll get enough distraction that even my level 1 balls are able to lock on to these units. Hopefully getting rid of them in time. So that's the plan anyways. I didn't have a lot of faith in the steel balls because I didn't have a lot of faith in my chaff clear. My only chaff clear right now are these sledgehammers and these arc lights. And right now against what, 5 squads of crawlers at the corner, these units are simply not enough to kill all the chaff. The wraith here is helping, and the wraith here, once the units get out of the bubble, can be quickly dispatched. But I just wasn't sure that by the time these chaff is cleared, the Mustangs and the fortresses aren't going to log on to me. So I decided to go with a Hail Mary crawler defense. My opponent took launcher overload on his fortresses. His fortresses are on the line, which means they can do almost twice as much damage at a cost of a slightly shorter range, which really doesn't matter because you simply just walk a few steps forward. I added my crawlers right there against his crawlers. Alright, so with 50 left, I think I'm going to take temporary range. I don't even think temporary range is necessary at this point. I think maybe getting speed might be better, or just, you know, maybe shield bubbles might be better, just to start tanking, like heavy tanking this Typhoon. So I took speed, didn't get temporary range. Upgraded my tower so it has a bit more fighting power in case I do win in the middle. Added a missile here for any funny business. Alright. The crawlers up north is doing well. The crawlers down below is just getting picked off by this Typhoon very quickly. But it did allow my steel balls to get in and start shooting at them. But I don't think it's just too short, right? So these steel balls are just locking on this Typhoon, but look how quickly the Typhoon are bringing down the steel balls. And once the steel balls are gone, I really don't have any units that can power down these Typhoons. Even though I am doing okay in the middle. So I am going to take these guys. I think this fortress is going to be a problem. Level 3 sledgehammers, they're no match for this fortress. But even if I can destroy this fortress, there's nothing I can do about these two Typhoons. And my opponent wins the game. I hope you enjoyed the game, and I'll see you on the next one.